All right. On the overhead, there should be, well, that's a lot nicer. We got a new overhead projector, a lot nicer quality. Thank you for mentioning the dress attire, or want to know, students want to know about dress attire for Tech Expo. Hadn't yet publicized it. So I told them business attire is fine, dress casual. I'll change it. It says, please wear business attire, change it to dress casual. In fact, let me do that right now. You're watching me update it here on the overhead. So I think dress casual. We'll do dress casual at work. That's, jeans, polo is fine, or short sleeve. Shirt's fine. You don't have to wear a tie. And if you have registered already, you will get a 48-hour reminder of that as well. If you've registered and you have, through Eventbrite is the place we're using, bring it on your phone or print it out, your QR code. We're going to be using that for the drawings. That would be great. Let's see if that changed it. Dress casual. There we go. And so it'll be here next Tuesday. We'll start at 6 on the dot. I'll open it up, and then we're going to have a speaker on CIS programming, web programming, data assurance and IT, networking, Cisco networking. Then we'll go into connection time. That's where you'll go around to local businesses that are at the event, and you'll fill out what's called a tech card per table. And you have to fill out up to 3 tech cards to go for the door prize at the end of the night, $750. And the tech card's pretty painless. You just go through and fill out this card. Tells about who you are, your name, the representative at the table you talk to, some information about them, the company, what jobs they offer, technical skills they need. And that way at the end of the night, the hope is you have your inbox full of good data that you can use to follow up after the event. Because if you've been at events like me, everybody says, oh, I'll call you, or you tell people you'll call them. I've done this as well. And it never happens. So this is kind of nice to have it in your inbox. It's hopefully you can use your phone. If you bring your phone with you, you can just fill it out on your phone and not have to worry about exchanging business cards or anything. You just do it this way. There will be refreshments there during the event. And so the big giveaways are the iPad mini 4 credit hours that you can use starting fall 2017, and other cool tech gadgets. I think I will bring my 3D printer and print out some iPhone and Droid phone holders to hold your phone up. Might do that. So anyway, questions about Tech Expo? The other announcement I want to make mention to you before I forget, I mentioned in my other classes, is the Hour of Code. This Saturday, if you go to rvchourofcode.com, there's a help link. If you want to volunteer at this Hour of Code this Saturday, I have one student already volunteering. I could use one more if you want to. That's great. You show up in here around 9 o'clock this Saturday, help give out handouts, help walk around, answer any simple computer questions. And we generally have anywhere from 15 to 20 that show up during that event. And you will get a free giveaway that we give away each time. We usually give away a selfie stick and a phone charger. So you'll have a choice of one or two for helping out. But the big one, really, if you can't go this Saturday, it's not as big as the December 3rd date. That's 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and noon. It's already filling up. It's about 50% full right now. And basically, this room will be filled 4 times from that time frame. And definitely, if you can't help this Saturday, if you can maybe volunteer an hour that Saturday, that would be great. Questions on the hour of code? Good. And just so you know, I will be bringing in some robots for this one and for the December one. I've got I built 2 robots here recently that are driven by code, that are using Blockly code, that you basically can change the program of the robot to do what you want it to do on a programmable type thing, or you can create a remote type app to remote control the device, the robot. The first bot's a little bitty it's called Ozo bot. It's a little round thing. The second one is actually driven by Arduino and some circuit board, and it uses Bluetooth to communicate to an iPad or iPhone. And so we'll be implementing that during this one this Saturday, and then also the one December 3rd. I'll have a few stations where students can 2 or 3 per event per station can play with it. So anyway, that'll be kind of fun if you're into robotics. Learning coding with robots is what we're calling it. Okay. So this week, week 9, going over some free apps on the App Store. I think they're all the same from last week, except for maybe the Uber one might have stuck on there. Might have went up a little bit on the chart. And then on the paid, Minecraft is back to number 1. And I think the NFL and NBA was on there. It's gone this week. Okay. Last week we went over core data. Tonight, week 8 core data is due if you haven't already turned it in. Most of you finished yours before you left last week. This week we're going to be covering files, managing files, on how to open up a local PDF and an external PDF both. And if you want, you can actually go to week 9 in class and go ahead and fork and clone that app on week 9 in class while we're finishing up these slides and have it ready on your Mac. We're going to be just adding 1 file to that for the lab. And so, but managing files is important in iOS because we're constantly, in most apps, you have some documents that are local to the device. What type of documents do you think would be important to have locally to an app? What type of documents would be on an app that maybe would be fitting to be local on that app? Anybody think of anything?
Like a calendar or a notepad or something.
A calendar?
But like you put your appointments on.
Okay. I guess I'm just talking about a static file that doesn't change. What type of static file on an app do you think might?
Your keychain, you know, or your password.
Okay, good. Some type of description of the app would be good, maybe as a PDF. Anything else you can think of as a static file that's local?
Help files.
Yeah, help file would be good, right? Instead of having it from an external source, having it internally on the app. Something that's not going to change, right? It's going to be pretty static. That's definitely needed in a app to pull up, because one of the things with PDFs is you can write text as we've already done this semester on an app, but the formatting is really not there as much. I mean, it's really nice to format something really nice, document-wise. It's really nice to have a PDF to do that. And so you make things look a lot nicer. But iOS gives us pretty easy tools to use. It's called the UI document class, that we can open a file, both local and external both, and manage any documents that are on our device or externally. So when you're managing files, one of the first methods is a contents for type. This method is called by the UI document class instance when a data is to be written to a file or document. So if you're going to write a PDF, you would need to know the types of PDF. Or if you're going to write an RTF, a rich text format, it would need to know that. If if you're going to write, which is popular as well, an XLS file, like the app we use for our login every night, our check-in, it writes to an XLS file and to a, which is an Excel file, and to a comma delimited file, a CSV file. And it uses this class to do that. And it also returns in the form of an NS data or an NS file wrapper. We're going to be using NS data, which NS data is the most universal, meaning all common files that you can think of. PDF's one. What's some other ones? There are common file formats. PDF.
DOCX.
What is it?
DOCX.
DOCX, Word documents, right? Anything else? What was it? JPEG. Yeah, those are common document types, common data types. Anything else? So, yeah, Word. Yeah, any Word extensions would work. I already mentioned RTF is an extension. TXT is an extension that's popular. And then the next type of class is a load from contents class. This is called by a subclass when the data is being read from the file or document. That's what we're going to be using tonight. The method in this class passes a content that's been read from a file, like a PDF, to the UI document subclass. And it's responsible for loading data into the application's data model. So much like your core data that we did last week, difference is you're actually just using a file, a static file, and holding it in memory. So to add a class, we've already done this, but I thought it'd be good to have it on the overhead tonight. When you're adding a new class, one of the reasons you need to add a new class is anytime you add any new object, any new view controller, a UI table view, we'll be adding a new view controller tonight, you need to add a class. Now, the reason you didn't do that the first few weeks was when you create a single view app, it creates that class for you, and it gives you the object for you already done. But any object after that, any view after that, you have to add yourself a new class for that object to be bound. And we did that last week with I believe the UI table view. You had to create a new class. Tonight we're going to do a view controller. So you just create a new group. Anytime you have an app that has multiple files, which your final apps will have multiple views, it's good to create a new group just for all the views that you're going to have. Okay? And within that group, you then create all the classes you need for all your views. So you create a new group, add a new file to the group, select the Cocoa Touch class. The subclass has to match whatever it is you're adding. Like tonight's going to be a view controller, so it needs to be a UI view controller class. Last week it was a UI table view controller. And if you're going to miss something, that's probably one thing you're going to miss when you first start doing this is you forget the subclass. You just I think the default's NS data, if I'm not mistaken. So that's one thing you kind of watch for tonight. Make sure you're selecting the correct subclass, which is going to be UI view controller. Then finally, the last step, number 5, once you've added the new view, you've added the new class in the folder, you then now need to bind that new class to the view controller, to the class object little tab in Xcode. So to open up a PDF, iOS recommends and does use the web browser built in, Safari web browser. You have built-in extensions in the Safari web browser to open up all common file types, which we've already mentioned tonight. So PDF, Word document, RTF, JPEGs, the list goes on and on. It can open up in a Safari web browser. Okay. The only thing the Safari web browser can open is Flash. But a lot of mobile devices, including Droid, are going away from Flash. Enabled content anyway. If you do, by the way, have an iOS device and you want to load Flash, or you want to, if you have an old app you want to play with online, I will recommend an app that will let you load Flash or old sites with old technology. It's called Puffin, Puffin. Puffin allows you to play Flash in the web browser on iOS. It's the only one out there that's really worth its salt. It's a free app that works really well, Puffin. So one of the things we're going to do tonight in just a second is once we test your app that you're syncing to your Mac right now and cloning it, is you'll notice when you open it up, we'll look at it. In the views, there's 3 views in this app we're going to look at. There's a main view that has 2 buttons. One button loads a local PDF. The other button loads an external PDF. Both buttons do a segue to another view, okay? And each view is going to just open up a PDF. One's going to be local and one's going to be external. And all that's going to be on the view that we're segueing to is a UI web view, and then some code behind it, some real simple code behind it to load it. So you do need a UI web view class to load a file. Also the document class we talked about. We're also going to use what's called an extension, which you started to be able to use in iOS 6, where Apple allowed developers to use existing app extensions within the iOS ecosystem to use in our app. So the UI web browser extension allows us to use all the methods and power of anything within the device we have already instead of reinventing the wheel. So we're going to extend the methods of all of the UI web view at the very end, the very last right bracket on the view controller. And anytime you extend anything within iOS, it's always at the very end, after the very last bracket, you're going to see the extension. So you'll see here on this one here, on the overhead, here's the last bracket at the very top of the code we're going to look at in a second. It's the last bracket of the UI view control class. And so from this line here all the way down to the right bracket is an extension of the UI web extension, UI web view. And notice I have in here 2 functions. I have a function to load a local PDF, and all it needs for the function is a string, which is the name of the PDF. That's it. The name of the PDF, by the way, when we call it, has to match the exact name, syntax, and everything as a PDF minus the .pdf. So you'll see that in the function here. It says let terms path string question mark equals ns bundle dot main bundle dot path for resource name. We'll say the name is ABC. Okay. Type PDF. Next line, let URL equals ns URL. This is going to make this whole path a URL now. The file URL with path, terms path. So it's converting that local path of that PDF to now a URL to be used in a web browser in a second. Let PDF request equals ns URL request. It's now making a request. So anytime you open up a URL, you have to do 2 things in a browser before you can open it up. You have to create a URL, convert it to a URL, which we've done here, then convert it to what's called an ns URL request, which in this case, the request is what's called in tech language and IT language protocol, get. It's getting the PDF. So and when you're on a web browser, you can only get and put. That's it. That's all you can do. So you can get stuff from a web page, right? Or you can put stuff on a web page. Nothing more you can do. So we're going to do, it's going to do a get command with that ns URL request. Then this self.load request, the reason self is used is because remember we're using the extension of the UI web view. Self.load request, PDF request, this now will load on this line, would load that PDF called abc.pdf. Now, abc.pdf would need to be in the root of my app in Xcode. Anywhere in Xcode, it doesn't matter. But for, I guess, for structure's sake, it's good to put in a folder, a group folder, right? Even though technically you don't have to, it's nice to create a folder that says PDFs or something or files or something so you'll know that's where you're putting all your stuff. And I think I told you this a few weeks back, anytime you create a group, the group only exists in Xcode. If you look at it outside of Xcode and the native file structure, you're not going to see that group folder. It's just for organizational sake within Xcode. Does that make sense? And so that's the load local that we'll look at more closely in a second. I want to go over on the overhead first. Second function that's inside of this extension for UI web view is load external. Same thing, takes just a string only. We'll say this time it's going to be a full URL we're sending over, by the way. So it'll be a full path, like HTTP :/abc.com/abc.pdf. It would be it would send that full PDF or full URL to the string. This line would take that URL, make it a URL. This line make it an MS URL request for the GET. This line would do something different we didn't do up here. We could have done is scale it to fit the page. It takes that PDF and scales it to fit the page or fit the web browser. The next line, the last one, loads it into the web browser. This one, by the way, you could do in the properties of the web browser, but you don't have to if you do it by code. It just does it automatically for you. And also by using an extension, we technically do not have to add in a web view into the view. We don't have to, okay, because it's using an extension. And that's the nice thing about using an extension is you just use the power of whatever app you're using, in this case, a web view, and you don't have to declare anything else. You just need to remember to put it after the last right bracket. So what we're going to do is here in just a second, we're going to create a new group after we run our app for the PDFs. We will import a PDF, and we'll look at the structure that's already in the code for loading local PDF, and which, by the way, it calls that on that's using the extension WebView.load local PDF. Then the ViewDidLoad, what this is used for is loading a local PDF on this one. Is when the app is ran and you click on a view to go to in a segue, the ViewDidLoad is going to run first. And notice in the ViewDidLoad, the only command that's in there is load local PDF. So when it hits this, which will be the first thing it hits, it's going to go right to here, run the load local PDF, run that extension that we just went over, load local PDF extension, and then load it in the web view. So the in-class exercise, hope you guys have time to do the fork and clone on that exercise. Okay. Well, what we're going to do, I'm going to go over with you here together, the app as it stands. After we get it running locally as it stands, we'll add a new view control in just a second to the app, add a new class. I'll walk you through how to do it. Add a new button on the main view called Spring 2015 App. Add a code to launch that external PDF into that new external PDF view controller.swift. And I can give you the link on line 7 in the in-class. That's the exact URL to get to that PDF, and we'll make sure it's working before we use it. Once we get all functions, I'm going to have you commit your in-class app, as always, to GitHub. And before we go into that, I'm going to actually go over the homework for us. You can do the same thing for your homework as you're doing on the in-class, except you use 6 buttons, 3 to 6 buttons. I put an option here. So you can do the canned app option, or you can do the final app option. The canned app option is 3 to 6 buttons, different local PDF apps that we're using for the in-class, or 3 external, or you can do both. If you're adventurous, you can do 3 local, 3 PDF. And so you would have the idea is on the main screen, 3 to 6 buttons on the main screen. You need to add 3 to 6 view controllers, depending on how many buttons you add. So if it's 3 buttons, 3 more view controllers. 6 buttons, 6 more view controllers. Then add 3 to 6 new classes for each view controller. Drag the button over to the view controller, and we're going to do modal view on the segue on this one. And we'll need to remember also at the end to commit your for your homework, commit and sync your GitHub. So that's one option for homework. Second option is for your final app, you might have an idea for a help file, or we'll just say a help file is an idea for your app to help people, or instructions. If that's the case, when you submit the homework for this week, as some of you did last week, say, I'm putting it in my final app. Now, would I recommend doing the homework again, just for practice, definitely, but you don't need to submit it. Does that make sense? You don't need to submit. If you do option A, you have to submit the actual GitHub repo. Option B, I don't need your GitHub repo for your final app because some of you have not yet started your final app idea. It's an idea right now. You've not yet started it. Here's what I want you to do, though. If you're not doing option A, but you're doing option B, this week, go from your sketch that you guys have been doing, your sketch mock-up that you've been using, the web view version, the web-only version, and start creating at least your app name, single view, I would suggest. Make sure, unless it's a game, a big game, it's going to be a iPad only, make it universal. And most of your apps are, I'm guessing, going to be using core data in some form or fashion. Make sure and select core data. At least get that started this week. That way you can start playing with the main interface, maybe how you kind of want it to look by playing with it. You have already your screen UI rendering, right, of your app, and I know a lot of yours is very rough. That's understandable, but you can take that rough idea and now beginning this week to start creating the base for your final app, because we're in week 9 right now. In 2 weeks, week 10, week 11, we have 2 more weeks of lessons. Week 12, you start working full-time on your final app. So right now is a good time to start at least getting the foundation created, right? Especially if you're doing option B. If you're doing option A, right, and submitting it through GitHub, maybe wait a week on your final app. But if you're doing option B and you're going to actually put it in your final app, that'd be a good time to at least start it. Get started on your base app. Make sense? Questions on that, on the homework, before we get to the in-class? Okay, so I've already got my in-class in front of me. I sync mine to my desktop. Make sure, as always with GitHub, you log into the browser first, and you log into the local Mac client second. Then you do the fork, and then you do the clone to the local Mac, and here's what it looks like. Okay, I want to look at the files on the left side first before we get into the actual storyboard. And look what I've done here. Notice on the files on the left side, I've got views, which is the first group on the left. It has in there the 2 Swift files that are UI view controller files. Then I've got below that PDFs. If you expand that, it should have what's 1 or 2 PDFs in there. Two PDFs in there. And then under My Files Swift 9, it has the app delegate, the view controller, which is there when we create the single view app. Main.storyboard, it's there as well by default when we create the main storyboard app. Everybody click on the launch screen.xib for me. We're going to do something different with this one tonight. Play with it. Launch screen.xib. I want you to expand it out like I am on the overhead. And what I want you to do is, in place of My Files Swift 9, I want you to double click on that My Files Swift 9 to where the text is highlighted like mine. And I want you to put in here your first name, apostrophe S, files, like mine. First name, apostrophe S, files. Hit the return key. Command S to save what we've done. And so this is going to be your splash screen. We'll see in just a second. And let's look to see that that PDF folder, that one PDF file I have in your PDF folder, works. So if you'll click on that testers.pdf, it should have in there, I believe, a document, something about creating over-the-air link, something like that. Is that what you guys have on yours? When you click on that local PDF, that PDF folder, and click on that testers.pdf. Okay. And the reason I'm doing that is just to check to make sure it works. Now everybody click on the main.storyboard. And I'm going to do a command minus on my storyboard just so I can see everything globally here where it's working. So here's what's happening on this. This file here, or this object here, is a main storyboard. It is the initial view controller, because it's checked. Remember last week, we showed you how to change that initial view controller. So this app started out as a single view app, right? All I did was I added 2 view controls, 2 buttons to this main view controller. I added a title bar. The 2 buttons, you can click on both of them or select them. The top one's local PDF. The bottom one's external PDF. Now, these buttons don't have any code behind them. They're purely segue only buttons, okay? What I mean by that is, if I scroll over here on the segue here on this first segue here, you'll notice when I click on it, it highlights that local PDF button, and it tells me it's a present modally only kind, meaning it's going to go to that view and just view it. That's it, okay? If I go down the bottom, which is going to go to the second segue, it's going to be the very same thing, except it's going to highlight the second button, which is the external PDF. So all these 2 buttons are segueing to the other view. That's all they're doing. Now the back button, it does not have a segue. The back button, we'll look at in just a second. If I go to the local load, the back button does have, if I have you guys click on that local PDF under the view folder, local PDF view controller.swift, you'll notice the back button does have some code. Self.dismiss view controller, animated, false, completion, nil. All it's doing is, wherever this view came from, wherever the segue came from, it's going back. That's all it's doing. It's dismissing the current view controller and going back to the original view controller. That's all it's doing. And that line of code right there, the reason I want to mention it is, that's used tons in your app development, okay? Because you're constantly having to go back to a view that you've segued to, okay? The other line of code I want to look at on this while we're in this load local one is, if we go down to the ViewDidLoad, this function ViewDidLoad, what happens, or when does this ViewDidLoad run? When does it run when the user clicks on the load local and it goes to the view? At what point, in what order is the load local or the ViewDidLoad ran? Is it ran after load local PDF, or is it ran before load local PDF? Before. It's the very first thing that's ran. And that's why I put in there the load local PDF, is because it's the very first function, and it's a default function in every view control that you add. So if I'll show you another trick here. If you take your mouse and go over, just click on once that load local PDF like mine, and the cursor's blinking anywhere in there. If you do a control click on that load local PDF, control click, the little menu will pop up like this. Everybody see that? Select jump to definition. It should highlight the function. Now, that's no big deal because it's right there. But you have to imagine, if you're in your final app and you're 3 weeks, 4 weeks into it, right, you could have that function 100, 200, 300 lines down from where you're at. So the control click go to that I just showed you, the control click jump to definition, it used to be called go to, now it's called jump to. Go to definition will save you a lot of time if you're determining, okay, what's that function doing? I can't remember. That'll help you, okay? Now on this function, all it's doing is taking the word testers, which that's the name of that local PDF, if you look at my PDF folder, and it's going to the extension at the very bottom, the extension, the function in the extension called load local PDF. Now, if I do the same logic I just talked about earlier and do a control click on that load local PDF and jump to definition, it should take me right to that function. Again, that's going to just some tips to help you save you time. You can do the same thing I just showed you, and we've done this before, on the right side of Xcode by clicking on the drop down, but it can be cumbersome because they're not in numerical or alphanumeric order. It would be helpful if they were, but they're not. Okay? So let's look at the load local PDF. We already went over on our notes, but I just want to one more time iterate it. It's loading the name testers right now in this. It's in this function. It's bringing the name testers. It's a string. And the first line of code is taking that, finding it in the NS bundle, which is what's used for our directory for files. Anywhere in our bundle is what this is looking for right now. I'm highlighting that because what it's doing right here is anywhere in our app bundle, meaning anywhere in our main file on the left side underneath my Swift file Swift 9 is gonna find it anywhere. Doesn't matter where you put it. I can put it in products folder, it's going to find it. Test folder, doesn't matter. I recommend, though, always putting files that are local files in their own group, like I did. Okay, just it's going to save you headaches on the long run. Next line converts that file into a URL. Next line converts it to a URL request to get that URL in a second. And then the last line loads it in the web view. Okay, on this file. Now you'll notice the load external is not being used, but one of the nice things is I want you to jump right over now to the next Swift file right below it. And that's the reason why it's in there. That's the reason why I'm going to show you why this load external is here and we're not using it. Go to the next one below that I have hover on the overhead. Go to the very bottom. Everything's the same, by the way, on the top of this, except for in the load external, it's loading in a complete URL, right? That's all it's doing. But notice at the bottom, is there an extension for that UI web view? You see an extension for the UI web view in the bottom of this code? It's not. And that the reason is you can only use a UI extension for whatever object, in this case it's UI web class, one time in the entire project. That's nice though, because as a developer, I can have all my stuff that I use throughout my app that I'm using the extension of Safari is what this is using basically in one file. Okay, it could actually be, if I wanted it to be, in the main view controller if I wanted, but I put it in this one. But logically speaking, it might be nicer to have it in that main file better than this one. But anyway, you only have to have it, it's only can be used once. It can be reiterated in each file, which is nice. If you were to put it in another location, it would say duplicate found. Okay, so that's nice because once you've used and say you create this app and you start getting a whole bunch of extensions as time goes on, and you remember how I showed you how you can save snippets? I have extensions of like 30, 40 functions I've created over the years, and I can just drag that whole snippet of that extension in any app and use anything I want to without having to type one line of code because all of it's in that extension that I created over years. So it's just like a toolbox basically. Those extensions become like really powerful toolboxes for a mobile app developer because this is just for files, but start thinking about stuff like gaming, 3D rendering. You're talking about a lot of code that can be put in an extension that you can reuse over and over again without having to reinvent the wheel each time, which you should never do as a developer, ever. Never, ever try to do it yourself. If it's out there, use it. Seriously, use it because you're going to have enough you're going to have to create on your own. So especially if it's a new app, right? If it's a new app that you can't find anything close to what you're wanting to do, you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to get some help on Apple documentation, some help on GitHub.com, some help on any of these other websites that will help you find answers. But a lot of this you have to just kind of figure out on your own. But then what's great is once you figure it out, and I think I've already helped Jack and a couple others in here with your final app, I will help you with anything that you need help with. The one thing I do ask you to do, though, is do some due diligence before you ask me, like say, so I kind of know you have tried at least to go out and look for, some helps on whatever. Say it's, I don't know, some calculation you're wanting to do, and you've done your best on, what calculation you want. You have it in your mind. You have it written down. You've tried to do it in code, but it's just kind of not quite getting there. I'll help you with it. Okay. I will definitely help you with that. So don't sit on those type of things for days on end. When you get stumped and you've done your best to figure something out, email me. Give me your code, what you got. Give me what problem you're having. I'll email you back immediately. And Jack can attest this to you. I think I did it like 10 o'clock at night for him. We volleyed back and forth a couple times. And I finally, the last one, he goes, yeah, that's it. That's what I need. And so I love doing that because I am a developer myself. That's what I do full time. And so I know sometimes when you've got to the place where you can't figure something out, it's nice to reach out to somebody to get help. And I get help from people all the time that I know as developers I work with and don't work with. So I'm just your other developer, you could say, for your final app. Okay. You can actually switch off the teacher and me and say, he's just a developer resource. That's what I want you to use me as. So give you freedom to email me like Jack did at 10 o'clock at night. And if I'm up, I'm gonna do it right then. I'm just gonna figure it out and do it right then. Because I know you are probably at your computer working, wanting to figure it out before you go to bed. And so I wanted to mention that because when you start creating a library of tools like this, it really helps you as you build your tool repository as time goes on. All right, so I'll get off my soapbox on that one. So let's go to the main.storyboard again. And I've already told you about the segues, the load local, load external. Now let's go and do a Command R. Just make sure it's working first here. And then the only thing we need to do before we add that extra view controller is make sure that external PDF's working on our internal or in-class assignment link. I think it is, but we'll test it to make sure. Okay, so mine's loaded. I'm going to click the load local or load PDF, local PDF. It loaded. If it's the first time, by the way, it might take a second to load. So if it's sitting there, don't worry about it. It'll eventually load. External PDF really actually went pretty quick. Pretty impressed with that. And then back. Now, while yours is still loading, I'm going to show you another thing here I did not show you. And I think in week 3 or 4, whenever we did that web one, it was like week 3 we did the fave webs or something. In the info.p list, while yours is loading, you're playing with it to make sure it works. The info.p list in the source code of that, for development anyway, this code here has to be added. And it's already in there on this app. But if you ever run a developer, say your final app has a web view, which maybe some of yours will, and you try to run it locally and load a website on a simulator, it'll come up with an error and say you can't load, you don't have security to run it. This is all you have to put in. And this, by the way, is I think I had this actually, if you just remember week 3, or I think I put it in the main modules of the site as well, or help files. But if you see an error, anytime you see an error in iOS, it'll give you somewhat of the reasoning why in the debug. I'm going to take this one out just to show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to I'll take this out real quick and run this again. And we're going to look at the error. You'll get enough in the error to where you can, well, this already ran once, so it's probably not going to do it for me. I'll have to clean it. Let me clean it, build it. If this doesn't do it, I'm going to throw another error in here on just to show you how to debug something. Yeah, mine's working fine without it. So anyway, I'll put it back in there. Let me do another one here. Let's see. I'm going to go into my code here and misspell something here. I misspelled testers. I put another S in there on the load local. It should say file not found because I misspelled it. Add another S. There it is. Now here's the bottom of my Xcode. It's going to give me a reason. And then also if I hover over here, it's going to tell why as well. And it's because the file has not been found on this file if I was to expand it. And so you can take whatever code it is it gives you, or in this case it was bad execution of the line, and determine from that what the error was. And it's usually in the bottom right corner of your dev. Mine says unexpectedly found nil, meaning the file wasn't found, so it errored out. So if I change it back, should be good. Okay, did everybody's run okay? Nobody's ran fine. Nobody. How many need help getting those to run? Okay, be right back and help you. Leave that up there. That doesn't matter. It's just for the test one. Oh, okay. You want to get in there real quick? I think it's just how it loaded on the disk on your Xcode. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here to what you've done here. So I'm trying to figure out what you unchecked or something. See how this isn't stopping?
Yeah.
It's not stopping. I'll take and kill it, do a force quit on Xcode. Then I'm going to go into GitHub where you did a fork and clone, right?
Yeah, I did it on the Chrome, in Chrome, not on the desktop.
That's why you have to do it within the GitHub repo. That's to be within here. So I'm going to go back up. And did you log into GitHub on this side?
Yeah.
Cool. You log in here?
Yeah.
Great. So let's do that again. And let's put it to your desktop. That should work. Did you call it on your account? You gotta call it. Don't worry, don't call it. Oh, you just saved it. I got you.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and call it on yours. Should be done. That is good. I'm going to call it to the desktop. It just takes a second to do. So we'll do it on the documents and so okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a command open Finder.
Trying to fix the cord. Example.
Oh, okay, that's good. All right. Let's do it.
That one's I just have to fix it.
It was still running task on that old one as well. It's like,
I'm just gonna force put X.
yeah, you had two of them. So, all right, I have one.
Is it a simulator?
Yeah, it's a simulator stuff. Anybody else need help getting this running? Raise your hand. All right, cool. All right, so we'll get yours going here. Let's see. Let's go to so let's see how it says it's open, that one. That's the one that's called. Fine. Okay. Okay. All right, let's go with this.
I just want to close. What's that? That's the. So is it a simulator? Yeah, exactly. That's what the simulator is.
So, this is,
We got Amazon.
So let's sit there and let it run. That's all right. Okay, here's what everybody else is going to do while his is running. What I want you to do is go ahead and stop the app from running. What we're going to do is go back to your main storyboard, if you would for me. And let's zoom it out like you've done on yours. That's good. Zoom it out to where you can see all four or all three. I'll show you in a second on the overhead. All three views I want to see in the storyboard. So here's what I want it to look like. So command minus, we see like this. Now, here's what we're going to do. I want you to rearrange this this one here is our main one on the upper left corner. Then this one we'll do there. This one we'll do there. We're going to put the new view right here where my mouse is hovering over. So all you need to do is go to your Object Explorer, your Object Library, the button here, the little yellow or the round button I'm hovering over on the overhead, the right corner of Xcode. Find View Controller. It's the very top. It's at the very top. Click and drag it and release it onto your storyboard and lay it out right there where mine is. So it's going to be right here. Okay. And as soon as you lay it out, let's go ahead so we won't forget. We're going to create a brand new view controller and a class. And let's see here, I want us to name it. Make sure I got the right name. We're going to call it External PDF View Controller. External PDF View Controller. So what you want to do is go over here to the views group. Everybody see that? The views group on the upper left corner of Xcode. Control click on the views group. Go to new file. It should be by default Cocoa Touch class. Is that right? Then next. Then the name of that should be External PDF View Controller. External PDF View Controller. And syntax really doesn't matter on this one, really. So external PDF view controller, as long as it's all one word, no spaces. And what subclass am I selecting? Somebody tell me.
UI view controller.
Yep, UI view controller. And language is Swift, so we'll leave it as is. We don't need to create the XI. And by the way, if you want to know what this XIB file is, way back when Xcode first came out, right? When Apple first started creating apps, XIB was the extension name. And you had 3 files in every XIB file. A .m file, a .h file, and a .obj file. So it's much simpler now. We just have one file, Swift. And so, but anyway, UI view controller, external PDF view controller is a class that we just typed in. Subclass UI view controller. Click next. Then click create. All right. And before we forget, we're going to go to the main.storyboard and bind that view we just added to that class. And you can be in this view, by the way, right here that we're at, zoomed out. I can click on this new view controller. Just click on it once. Go over to the class module with the identity inspector. Show the identity inspector right here. And then select the drop down for class and select the new external PDF view controller, which should be at the very top. And the reason we need to do that is if we don't do that and we go to segue to that new view, it's not going to know what to do. It'll go to the view just fine. It's just everything we put into code, nothing will happen. That makes sense? So it puts the connections in there. So this is, by the way, a nice tip as well. When you're adding multiple views, which I know a lot of you will be doing for your final app, add it in this view, meaning you can zoom this out even more to add more. You know, it's kind of hard to see where you're at. But when you're up close on your Mac, it's not that bad. You can make sense of it, at least to, you know, when you're adding stuff. So we've added the class. Everybody got that? The custom class. Now we can actually, I'll go back to our instructions. We added the new view controller, number 3. We added the new class. We named it correctly. We've got to add a button now to the main view. We're going to call it, the text we're going to do Spring 2015 app. So let's go to Xcode, our main one, which is this one right here. As soon as you double click on it, it'll bring it up into full view. And how do I duplicate this button here easily? Anybody remember? What command, keyboard command, you guys remember? I'll give you the first one, command. Huh?
Command D.
Command D. So if I select on external PDF and just do a command D, it duplicates that. I can bring it below that external PDF, and we're going to call that one Spring 2015 app. Spring, actually it should be apps, but we'll just do what I wrote on there. Spring 2015 app. Okay, nothing fancy. Now, what do I need to do next without looking at instructions? To go to that view, what do I have to do next? What do I have to do with that button to go to that view? Create a, starts with an S. To go to another view, I've got to segue it. So This one, here's how I recommend doing a segue. We'll do a Command minus to get back to the full view like this. I'm going to rearrange these for right now just so I can easily get to that new view. You see what I'm doing? I'm rearranging the one I just added the button to here. The new one is right here. Once I get that lined up like I want, I'm going to double click on this one here, my main one that I added the button to, and then control click drag that button over here, and we're going to do a modal segue. So I'll do it with you here. So I'm going to control click drag, and the one you want to select is this present modally, and I'll keep it highlighted on the overhead there with my mouse on it. So control click drag that new button over to the new view, let go of your button on your mouse, let go of the mouse, and then select present modally. And this is what I always do too. Even after I do that, I don't always trust the program or myself sometimes. I'll click on the segue again. It should highlight the button, and in the property over here for the storyboard segue, it should say present modally. All right. If it doesn't do that, you can, by the way, change it here as well if you selected the wrong one. All right. Command S it. Let's Command S. So we've added the button. We added the new view controller, added the new class. We added the new button. We created the segue already. Now we need to add code to launch the external PDF onto that external PDF view controller. And we need to use a code from, we'll use the code from load external view controller.swift. Should give us a code to help us. While we're in this in-class area on Eagle, you can copy that URL. That URL you're going to need. So if you go to you'll have to go to your in-class, week 9 in-class. Let me go to mine and copy that URL. And I did test it earlier. It should be okay. So I'm going to control click on that link and just say copy link address instead of trying to highlight it and copy it. So if you just control click on that URL, select copy link address. That'll copy it. Now we're going to go to Xcode. And I know we have code we have to copy over, we're going to bring over, but here's what I want you to do. If you'll go to the external PDF file that we just created, the new class, this looks like this one, and I've highlighted on the overhead. Before we go anywhere, we have in memory right now that URL. So here's a tip. I'm going to take and go down into the ViewDidLoad for right now. And I'm going to put a comment in there and do a Control V and paste that URL right there so I'll have it in memory on that form. Make sense? So I won't have to go back and forth again. So I've just copied that URL in here somewhere, and I put mine in my ViewDidLoad. It could be anywhere though. Now that we've done that, we need to go to the load external view controller, this file right here, and we need to get some code. So the code we're going to do, and by the way, we haven't had the back button yet. We'll do that last. We'll do the code for the function here. And the only one we actually need to put in is this function load external PDF. We need that one because that's going to be needed for loading the external PDF. So find the function load external PDF, highlight the lines I highlighted, which is a function, copy it, go to the external PDF, and I'm going to put mine right below the ViewDidLoad right bracket and paste it in there. The URL I have up here, and by the way, you'll get a red X here because we have not added the web view yet. I'm going to copy that URL and put it in the quotes here. Command S it. I do not need to put anything external. I do not need to put the extension here. Why? Well, I don't need to put the extension to UI WebView. Remember? Why don't I have to put it here? The only one, right? Can only have one. So in the ViewDidLoad, I do need to put this, I need to copy this load external PDF. I need to copy that, and I'll bring that over to my external PDF. Put that in there. So all I have left to do is I need to add a button, a title button, create a segue for the, or an outlet for the button, an action for the button, and the code. So let's do this. If you'll go to the main storyboard, to that new view we just added, a couple things we got to do here. First thing is, let's add a title navigation bar at the very top here first. So I'm going to scroll down and find navigation bar, title one. And by the way, we're going around this a long way. You could also do another trick here. We could have taken the existing view controller and just duplicated it with the same command that we duplicated the buttons with, Command D. And we wouldn't have to do a lot of this. But I think some of you need practice on creating outlets probably, so it's probably a good idea. So I added my navigation bar at the top. Let's see what I'm going to name that one. I'll just put up here on the title, external PDF. Right now. And I need to add a button over here for my back button, and it should be below that nav bar, about 4 or 5 down. There it is. The bar button item, click and drag it. As soon as you click and drag it and release it, remember there's only 2 spots, by the way, on the title bar. A left spot and a right spot for a button. That's it. That's all you can put. So I'm going to name this one what? What am I going to name item? Is item good for a back button?
Yeah, back.
How about back? Yeah, let's do that. So we'll double click on that, back. And I need to create a action out of this one. It needs to be an action. So which button do I create? Click on here to create an action. You go now. This one right here, the 2 circle one. So let me see where everybody's at. And then I'm going to kind of stop there on mine and kind of walk around, see where you're at. Let's see if I can help you. Before we go any further, we're almost there. Yep, you're going to get some errors right now, so you're good.
There is like this one.
That needs to go right here in that URL. Yep, go and do that. And I'll come around and check everybody's. If you need help, definitely ask me. I'll definitely help you. Paste that in. Good. Now we need to go back to the main storyboard. Go to the new view control we just added. Oh, you already added that. Okay, cool. Double click on it. And let's create a action out of that. And we'll do that together. But I just want to make sure okay, you're good. Thank you. Cool. You're ready. Awesome. Okay, you doing all right? Doing good there? Yeah. How we doing over here, sir? You ready?
Yeah.
Cool. How we doing, guys? All right.
I'm playing catch up because I got.
No, that's fine. No, you're fine. I know you had issues early on, so just get to where you're adding the back button, and then they'll stop there, and we'll do where that's where everybody else is at. Need help on anything?
Where are we at?
I've just added the title bar and the back button and stop. We haven't done anything else. And we're going to do everything else together after that. So let's get to that point. We haven't added the UI web browser yet. We're getting ready to do that next. And I did, we haven't even created the action to the code yet. We'll do that in a second. So just literally drag the bar button item, and that's it for right now. Good to go? Okay. All right. So let's everybody click on the, I like to call it the US Olympic circles, the show assistant editor. Click on that. And we're going to put the back button. I'm going to put it above this ViewDidLoad. So if you take your cursor and put it right where mine's at, override function ViewDidLoad, put it at the first of that, and then just hit the return key a few times to give you some space. Then we're going to do a control click drag of that back button into that area. Change it from outlet to action. The name is BTN back. We'll make it all lowercase. BTN back, all lowercase. Type UI bar button item. So again, I clicked and dragged, control clicked and dragged that button to the code right above the ViewDidLoad. Named it BTN back. Type UI bar button item. I got that. And then click connect. Now we have to add a UI web view below that. So if you'll take your mouse and click on the detail view, let's add a UI web view and fill up the entire bottom part of this view. So from the bottom of the title bar all the way to the bottom here and left and right. So find the UI web view, which should be just a little bit up from where we're at in the Object Explorer here. So there's my web view. I just like to click and drag it in there, and then those little boxes you can spread out to fit into your view. And we are going to have to create an outlet of this web view, and the outlet of the web view is going to be called web view, all lowercase. And we can put it right below the button, the back button. So you do a control drag, just like we did with the button, leave it outlet, and just call it web view, all lowercase, everything else the same. So you're literally just typing in web view and clicking connect. When you do that, the little red exclamation point should go away in your load external function. It should be gone. So what we just did was, to recap, I had you add a bar button item, clicked on the two circles, control dragged it, named it BTN back. It was an action as a UI bar button item. Then I had you add a UI web view below that to fill the entire view. fills the entire view. Control drag that into your code. I drug mine right below my back button. It's a web view, and I just named it web view, all lowercase. Outlet, and clicked OK. And then that should get rid of the error that we had in the load external PDF. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this show standard editor. The last piece of code we have to put in is for the back button. So if we go back to any of the two, doesn't matter. We can go to this one or this one, either one. Either two Swift files, either one. And go to the code in the BTN back, that line of code there that does the dismiss. Just highlight that whole line of code and copy it. It doesn't matter which one you go into, either one will work. And then paste that inside of the left and right brackets of the new back button item. Once you do that and do a Command S, not done yet, we need to do a, we need to fix this view controller to where it renders properly. Anybody remember where we need to go to after I click editor? Where do I go to fix the, where everything lays out, how it lays out? Remember? Yes. Here we go. Resolve all layout issues. Then reset the suggested constraints. Once you do that, it's going to match everything up with whatever device you might have. Now we should be ready now to do a Command R and test it. We didn't do that editor layout on the first screen, the main screen, so that button might be messed up like mine. If it is, we can fix that later. All right, good. And let's see if the PDF loads. Might take a second. Boom. Loaded. Now, to fix this one, we got to do the same thing on this main view as we did with the new view. I got to go over and, even though it shows up right here, I did not go to the editor, resolve all layout issues, reset. If I do that and run it, we should be good to go. So let me come around and look at everybody's. What you're basically going to do for your homework is just what we did in here, but you're going to use different files. So you can do up to 3 to 6 buttons, local and external. Cool. And make sure they work. You can be your own PDF buttons. Be your own PDF files or stuff you file online. Should it work for you? All right, awesome. Great. Working great. So once you have it functional and it's working, I'm going to walk you through again quickly on the overhead how to submit this to GitHub. Do you have an error on yours?
Yeah, an error.
Okay, let's look at the error. What's it say? Bottom right corner of Xcode, all the way to the top. Bottom right. See the bottom right of the error? Scroll all the way to the top of that little area. It'll tell you what it is. Okay, there's a problem with the BTN back. So go to the stop the code, go to your storyboard, click on it, click on the storyboard. Go to your new one you just added, click on the back button. Okay, go to the right arrow on the very right. You got 2 of them in there. Get rid of one of them. Now go to your code, the circle code for me. And control click that to your code. Yeah, keep going. Nope, you cancel. Control click it till you see a highlight. There you go. Now release it. Okay, so get rid of the bottom one. All right, now go ahead and run it. So everything was working with that button, I'm guessing. Cool. And you'll have to do the editor thing on that first one. Okay, here we go. You guys are great. So let's do this. Go ahead and stop your Xcode environment. Xcode, quit Xcode. Quit your simulator. And I'm going to see if you guys know how to do this. I'm gonna test you here. No points, but see if you remember. Okay, I'm in GitHub. I brought my GitHub on after I exit out of Xcode, which I should always do. How do I commit this to GitHub? Anybody remember? What do I need to do? What do I need to click up here first? I'm in history right now. Where do I need to go?
The 8 uncommitted changes.
Yep. I'm gonna click on the uncommitted changes one. Then just put first initial line, first initial. I just put my initials in there. That's fine. CK, that's fine. Whatever your initials are, put them in there. I've got 8 or 10 changes in here. It looks like 8. And then what button do I click now? Commit to master. As soon as that's finished, what do I do next? Remember, I always do one more thing. It's repository, then what?
Push.
Push, right. So you're going to do one more push to that GitHub on your end, on your GitHub repo. Then repository, how do I get to GitHub? There you go. View on GitHub. View on GitHub. So most of this is intuitive, but just doing it, so it becomes second nature after doing it 20,000 times. So now this is your actual GitHub that you just updated. You can see I have 5 commits on mine. I'm guessing you'll have around the same. If you click on the commits, by the way, the latest one should be the one you just did a minute ago. That's yours. The URL that I need, by the way, for the in class is if you take your mouse and click right here on your week 9 My Files in GitHub, that URL that it creates right up here at the top of your browser, that's the URL I need you to submit in week 9 in class. Okay? Questions on your in class? Questions on your homework? I already went over it earlier. I don't want to rehash if I don't need to. Yes. You need help? Okay. Anybody else need help on the homework? Okay. Hang back then. If you need help on anything in class, I'll definitely be around to help you. Good job. I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording real quick.
I said I had 0 changes, but does that, because I opened the GitHub app before I opened the browser, is that going to make a difference?
No, it shouldn't.